Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The rifle category here in Warzone has seen quite a few updates over the course of the past few weeks, seeing different buffs and nerfs, seeing a global overhaul to weapon behavior with the visual recoil and noise. And so today I wanted to go through and break down the general top 5 best assault rifles and best setups for them here in Warzone right now. And of course, first things first, we got to start here on True Game Data to actually figure out what the true top 5 best assault rifles actually are. So we've got some top tier options here from BO6 and MW3. You might be saying, what about MW2? And quite frankly, there really aren't that many there that are competing in this current meta. Obviously, rifles focus primarily on the mid to long range here. So we got the AK-74, the VAL, the BAL-27 from MW3, obviously a great choice. The BP-50 as well. GPR, the Goblin, the KRIG, the XM4. Then I threw in the SVA too, since we've talked about that one a couple of times in terms of having a fast TTK. And when we go through, we look at 300 health and combination shot. Super important to get the most accurate TTK here on True Game Data. And of course, as always, huge shout out to Tony for putting in the work, getting us all this information and making it so easily dissectable. Here's sites always linked down below. We get a very competitive graph here, all things considered. You know, this mid-range here, there's a lot of parity going on. Over range, things start to separate themselves a little bit more, but that's, you know, inherently a good thing when it's this close and it's not like, hey, there's one line that's so far beneath everything down here and everything else is up here. There's no like drastic monopoly right now in the rifle category, but we got to narrow this down to 5, right? The first thing I would say is pretty noticeable is the SVA. While yes, it is extremely good here in its first damage range out to, you know, 36 meters, depending on which barrel you're running, this thing does drop off a cliff. Now it's easy to use, which is nice. So, you know, this last damage range TTK might not be as, you know, far away from some of these other options if you factor in accuracy, but clearly it's got the worst damage ranges here out of the rifles. Although it is so good up close, mid to long range being the primary areas you're fighting, you know, 30 to 80 meters and beyond, right? It's just not going to hold up as well there. So while it's a good MW3 option, it's definitely not in the top 5 as it stands. On the inverse, the Goblin here, so crazy good. It actually does stand out quite a bit, particularly in its first damage range. However, this TTK is kind of skewed on this graph just because of the fact that the Goblin is a semi-auto gun. So this is considering max fire rate, you landing every single bullet, which for 99% of players is not attainable in game. You're not going to be consistently doing that in fights back to back to back. So while it is clearly a top TTK option here up close, realistically, if you start to miss shots or you can't spam it at its max fire rate, which most players can't, it's not going to be nearly this fast. So in my opinion, the skill gap there definitely knocks this one out of the top 5 as well. Now we've got some other fun choices here, but I think there are a couple ones that we can pretty much solidify are gonna be in the top choices here. The AK-74 being one of those, fastest TTK up there in the you know, close range, the mid range as well, pretty much all the way out through 71 meters. It's a mainstay. We've talked about it a ton. The AS VAL is kind of in the same situation there, where first damage range, second damage range, the mid range here is utterly insane. It's sticking around too. You then get the BAL-27 and the BP-50, and this is kind of where things get a little bit tougher, because you can see the BP-50 for the most part is decently competitive. Quick TTK in its first damage range, but then in the second damage range and the mid range, it's really not competitive all the way out until 50 meters and beyond. Keep in mind, it also has a bit of a faster fire rate, so its damage per mag is not going to be as great there, and it doesn't have as good a visual recoil as BO6 guns do now. And so for that reason, I think ultimately this one just misses being in the top 5 there. And it's kind of the same deal with the BAL-27. While yes, it's got a good TTK, it does start to drop off, and then over range it's not nearly as competitive, and it being an MW3 gun, just the behavioral stats of it do limited some. So you knock that one off, and then suddenly we've got our top 5. So AK and AS VAL being two clear mainstays there. The GPR sticking on here because all the way out through 58 meters, pending your attachments, and if you can extend that damage range at all, it's going to be a great option, while also being maybe the most versatile and aggressive out of everything on the list here. XM4 is just doing it right in every single situation, plus it's super low recoil. And then the KRIG, kind of the same deal, just really reliable throughout and also very easy to use. So we've got our top 5 here. Now let's jump into Black Ops 6 and Warzone and actually break down the best loadouts for these weapons. So as we do break down all the setups here today, quick reminder, if you're new to the channel or maybe you have not subscribed, subscribed yet, every single day I got you guys covered with the latest need to know info, so all the latest news and updates, and then also the best tips to excel in game, things like the best meta breakdowns for multiplayer and Warzone. Everything going on in COD is right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and if you enjoy this video, you find it helpful at all, a like rating is always seriously appreciated as well. Much love to everyone taking the time to do so. So at number 5 here, I've got the KRIG. They have adjusted how this one feels as of late, in addition to obviously making the general visual recoil and everything less noticeable. They did go through and actually add some recoil to this and adjust the overall pattern to it in that same update, so it's going to be relatively easy to use, but it won't be like as straightforward as it was on day one in terms of the physical recoil pattern. That said, as we saw, its damage is phenomenal at all ranges, and it's decently aggressive at the same time here. So just a basic 5 attachment setup. Go for the optic of your choice. For me, it's always the Jason Armory 2 times or the Willis 3 times. I just really like the feel of each of these. I also go for the base suppressor, just keeping me off the minimap, as straightforward as that. Vertical foregrip on here, max horizontal control makes the pattern super predictable. So if you're fighting at 30 meters, you're gonna laser beam. If you're fighting at 70 meters, you're gonna laser beam, right? Obviously, extended mag 2 necessary on here. Actually, a 70 round extended mag. It's pretty solid there. That's gonna work great for all squad sizes, of course. And then just to keep this thing as easy as possible, I go for recoil springs on here. I really like the feel of this, adding in control to both horizontal and vertical there. So just making the gun shoot as straight as possible, essentially, right? If you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter, you could throw on a reinforced barrel, you could throw on a balanced stock, an ergonomic rear grip, and you'd be set there as well, and this thing would be even better. But even with just 5 attachments, this thing feels phenomenal. Next up, GPR. I love the feel of this thing. It's one of my favorite rifles in the game, has been since the integration first happened. It is easy to use. As I mentioned, it's extremely versatile as well. Like, it's a super aggressive rifle here, and obviously got a great TTK and decent range out to that last damage range, at least, where it does drop off a little bit more. Again, here, optic of your choice. For me, it's the Jason Armory 2 times. I also like using an iron sight build on this, though. If you want more of like a sniper support style, you could drop the optic, throw on like a balanced stock, and you'd be set there too. Basic suppressor, again, keeping me off the radar, of course. I like the gain twist here for the max velocity, although reinforced obviously is never a bad choice, but with gain twist on here, we end up with just over 1,000 velocity, already a really good effective damage range on there. I just feel like the hit scan range and the overall feel of the weapon and engagements is a lot more consistent and a lot more reliable. I also go for Ranger foregrip. This gun is relatively easy to use, so I don't need as much horizontal control as like vertical would offer, but I do get some mobility back out of this with that sprinting movement speed, so it's just even more aggressive. Then of course, extended mag 2 here as well. It's a 60 round extended mag. That's still going to work fine for solos, duos, trios, quads. Doesn't matter what you're playing. That'll be plenty of ammo, especially considering how quick you can knock players with this thing. Hey everyone, if you're looking to start 2025 off right, look no further than Gamer Advantage. If you were looking at screens for long periods of time, whether you are gaming, creating content, doing school, work, whatever the case is, Gamer Advantage is truly a game changer. They've got prescription and regular lenses, a bunch of different frame options, so quite literally a style for everyone. And if you're looking at screens, experiencing eye strain, maybe you're getting some headaches, or you're just simply trying to sleep better at night, Gamer Advantage has you covered. Obviously, you guys always see me rocking my frames. I got the new Horizon 2.0s that I absolutely love, and these, I've said it before, I'll say it again, are the most essential part of my day-to-day setup. So if you ever want to get a pair for yourself, toss in code IMMORTAL at checkout, and that'll save you some money. Link is down in the description below. Now, at number 3, I've got the AS Val. Only thing holding this back from being potentially number 1 or number 2 is its DPM. This thing does melt, like as we saw. It's got a great TTK. Its magazine capacity, though, is not great. We are on extended 3 here, and it's only 55. So with this fire rate, you burn through ammo. Now, luckily, it's easy to use. You're going to stay on target with those 55 shots, but let's just face it, it's not 60, 65, 70. And with this fire rate, that means you're going to spend more time reloading, or missing shots is a little bit more noticeable in terms of, just how impactful it can be. But that said, it's still a phenomenal rifle, of course. Here, I actually use the suppressed reinforced barrel, one of the few weapons that actually has integrated barrels here, so we get better range and velocity, and it keeps us off the map. Great 3-in-1 there with basically no cons, of course. Vertical foregrip for the max horizontal control means I'm as accurate as possible. Extended 3, as mentioned, only being a 55 rounder. You kind of just got to live with it and, learn to work around that. Balanced stock on here, I really like the feel of just for the added mobility. It is a little bit clunkier than maybe some other rifles in terms of its overall aggressiveness and feel, so this helps out some with that. Then I go for recoil springs. I want to be as accurate as I can be, and plus I really like the iron sights on this build as well for what it's worth, so this means my accuracy is good, my mobility is decent, and obviously the range and everything on it is fantastic to pair with that TTK. Now at number 2, we've got the XM4, maybe the single easiest weapon to use in the entire game. As you can see, we don't even use an underbarrel here. This thing is a laser beam, super reliable TTK throughout, as we saw. Like, it is checking all the right boxes, probably the most reliable option in the entire game. Will is 3 times in this case. You could also switch over to the 2 times or any other optic you want to, of course. Basic suppressor yet again to keep me off the radar. Gain twist here as well, just with that added velocity on there. It feels so consistent in gunfights when you have that 1100 velo in this case. Obviously, reinforced is always a good choice too if you want to switch over to that though. Extended 2 here for me. I don't like the slowdown of extended 3 being 100. 60 works just fine in like every single situation, right? So you could do 100 if you want to, but you are going to be noticeably slower. Then I also go for that buffer weight stock, which is crazy good on the recoil control. Basically is way better than you could ever get with any underbarrel or recoil springs or anything there. So it's going to be a no recoil laser beam pretty much at any range, and that is a huge benefit that the XM4 has over a lot of other guns in the game. And then lastly, at number 1, I got to go with the AK-74 because of the changes to recoil and all the noise and everything there. This thing is a lot easier to use. It's easier to stay on target with, and when you are accurate with this thing, it's got the best TTK in the category essentially, right? Really in the game, it's up there as one of the top choices. Thing just absolutely melts. So again, here I got that 2 times optic on there. Big surprise, I know. Suppressor to keep me off the radar, of course. Reinforced barrel in this case, a little bit of better range, a little bit of better velocity, a little bit of better pizza in there as well. Papa John's, of course. We got the vertical foregrip on there, better horizontal control, so it's a lot more predictable and accurate. And then of course, extended 2 in this case, it's a 50. Extended 3 is a 60. If you want to jump up to that extra 10 bullets for that slowdown, you absolutely could. It's just a matter of preference. This is another gun that would benefit greatly from Gunfighter, being able to have ergonomic on there, a balanced stock, recoil springs, or overpressured ammo. You'd be set there as well. But even just with this setup here, having a 996 velocity, a 64 meter effective damage range, you're gonna be just fine. This thing's gonna absolutely rip. But that being said, that's how the rifle category breaks down, and those are the top 5 best assault rifle loadouts to be running right now. That's gonna wrap things up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on it, and if you're new here, you want to guarantee that every single day you're in the know for all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.